Well, with the release of the new Shimano Dura-ace and Ultegra, we really have to reevaluate Shimano's product line, because they've removed mechanical, they've also increased the weight, and the price now for the Dura-ace is the most expensive group set on the market. So this is really a bit of a shift, because Shimano was really renowned for really good performance but also for value for money, and this has kind of changed from the Shimano product line. So now what they're basically aiming for is that we're the top dog, we're the premium group set, and if you want our top of the range group set, you're going to have to pay the top dollar. Now, is it really worth that? Let's roll that intro and let's see if that's really the case. Now, Dura-ace really has become a progression of its last model, and what we really see is a evolutionary change rather than the revolutionary change with the latest Dura-ace Shimano group set. And this group set really has the same sort of crank technology. The rear derailleur, even though they've extended the cage length, really has pretty similar sort of technology and features. Synchro shift's the same. The only real difference we've seen is just a basically redesign and a faster communication protocol, so the gears can shift quicker, and also wireless shifters to the wide part at the back of the group set. So it's not like as if they're inventing electric shifting for the first time. And if you actually know anything about electric components and, you know, Bluetooth and wireless communications, those sorts of computer circuitries are becoming incredibly cheap. And if you go on Alibaba and places like, you can buy these sorts of devices like Wi-Fi communication devices for very, very low money. And we're talking about dollars, even less sometimes than $1. And that's the reality of the price of these components. Some people may even argue that electronic group sets could actually be cheaper to manufacture than mechanical group sets. But I haven't got or done the research on that, so we can't say that one way or the other. So really, how much would it cost to build this new group set over the older group sets, the old Integra group set and the old Dura-ace group set? Because to me, let's just start with the crankset. Now, the crankset still has the hollow crank technology, and the components that are used there are basically metal and aluminium, and they're bonded. So that sort of technology for making that is a very old technology, so their equipment and fitting and the way they do that would probably have little research, because they're using exactly the same technology. Yes, they've redesigned the aluminium piece that gets bonded to the metal piece which goes to the axle, but the reality is that that technology is pretty much the same. Now, that sort of technology where they're using an aluminium housing and a metal housing and they're bonding it together really is not that expensive to make. It's not like it's carbon fiber, or they have to use the forging technology like what is used in the Campagnolia, where you have a piece of metal that's of a low heat where it liquefies, and then you basically carbon around that, and then you compress it in the molding, and then you heat it up so that liquid that does the internal forging of the device then can be let out of the device, and then usually they put some sort of plug in there. And you'll see that with most of the carbon cranksets. My Look crankset has it, Campagnolia has it. So using a technology where you're using aluminium and you're bonding it to a metal shaft is really a lot cheaper process than using carbon fiber and doing that type of process. So the cranksets on the Shimano group sets would be a lot cheaper to make, and especially the volume as well. The group sets would be a lot less, because the more you make, the cheaper they go. And let's face it, Shimano has the biggest share of the market. Now, if we actually look at the Di2 device at the back, that technology is pretty well established, and I would probably suggest that that technology inside that group set and the motors are really pretty much the same. They might have opted for a different gearing, or they may have opted for stronger motors which are available, but I think the cost of doing that would be pretty small to change those sorts of devices. Now, if we actually look at the hydraulic systems, of course, that's the same. Yes, they're forging a different caliper, which obviously would be a newer cost because they've got a one-piece rather than a two-piece. But the rotors they're using are exactly the same. They haven't developed any new rotors. So all of that stuff, really the cost upgrade would be, I think for the whole group set, would be significantly small. And the SDIs, they've got a few components that they've changed. But yeah, it's not like this is a revolutionary design change for Shimano. Now this to me would demonstrate that the cost upgrade for Shimano would be pretty minimal compared to going from any other group set for their upgrades, and wouldn't have significant costs. In fact, they may actually be having some savings going to a total electronic group set rather than offering a mechanical and electronic group set, because then they have to make more parts, there's more mouldings, and it'd be more expensive. So they probably may have even cut costs. So where do we get this new price that they've come out, which is significantly more than SRAM and Campagnolo? And if you actually look at Campagnolo's group set, it's got a significant amount of carbon fibre, or basically a fibre-based resin epoxy type device to make all their parts. They're not made from aluminium or pressed aluminium, they're not bonded. And I would probably argue that Campagnolo's group sets would be more expensive to make. And then you've also got the SRAM group set, which probably for them to develop their ETAP device in the first place would have probably had a higher significant research cost to get that all to work, because they also develop their own communication software. Now, I'm not too sure what Dura-ace have done there, but it may be a much simpler system because the rear is wide, and that's why they went for that system. We don't really know that, but it might have been a cost versus manufacturing why they went for a hybrid wired wireless system. So really, when you look at the price of the Dura-ace now, it's a bit questionable whether you're getting the same value for money that we've got in the past from Shimano. And although the Ultegra group set is quite a lot cheaper, it's quite heavy. We're not seeing a technology in these group sets that's making them considerably light. They're basically like aluminium and metal parts. We're not seeing some ultra new technology like carbon fiber or titanium that we see in the top line Campagnolo devices to get the weight down. So to me, I think Shimano are basically taking a different turn in their marketing and saying, hey, look, we're the market leader, and we are now saying that we're the premium product, and we're going to price our product above Campagnolo and above SRAM. And I think this is a little bit disappointing, because when I look at the product, or I've reviewed it and done my research on it, I don't think they're really offering that. Whether you look at the other brands like SRAM and Campagnolo, I don't see any significant development costs or materials used in those group set to exceed the products that the other brands are using. I see that they pretty much in the same ballpark, and I think that really the Shimano Dura-ace is probably $500 to $1,000 US too much. So I don't think it's good value for money, and it'll be interesting to see if, as we normally do with bicycle parts, that we get a decreasing of price as the group set gets older. But with the availability at the moment, we may not see that.